Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to your Veterans Day show about Bitcoin. Okay, here's what I want to say, guys. Quite some time ago, I don't know, possibly a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, I just not exactly sure. On this channel, I talked about Bitcoin doing something that I would call the unthinkable. And I mean, I put myself out there a bit talking about it. Back then, Bitcoin price I think was only like, I don't know, I think it was under $10,000. Anyway, I talked about Bitcoin taking over the world's financial system like a black hole, sucking everything up, all of the financial assets of the entire world, and becoming the new world reserve currency or new world reserve currency status. And I talked about how Bitcoin prices could go so exorbitantly high that you could like retire on maybe just 3% or 4% or 5% of one Bitcoin, and have a nice retirement for your entire life, And I'm going to tell you, back then, looking forward, I said, well, this could happen. Didn't say it would happen. I said it could happen, could possibly happen. And what's interesting is at that point in time, there was talk. I think the administration, there was talk amongst the central banks that they were going to step down on Bitcoin and crush it or whatever. People got nervous. There was a period of time where people got nervous about Bitcoin stuff. But as time has progressed, looking at that time back then, and now looking at this time now, a lot has changed within the Bitcoin space and within the altcoin space and within the industry as a whole. And you got to understand that it took from 2009 up until just a very short time ago, maybe a year and a half or a year ago, for Bitcoin to make its first $1 trillion in the entire industry of the cryptocurrency industry, which is an extremely huge achievement. Now we're on the precipice of going over the $3 trillion mark. You guys have aware of how much money is involved here at this point. I consider that, and back then I talked about this. I said how Bitcoin is able to go over like I think I said the $3 trillion mark. It's going to enter into a territory where it starts to become too big to fail within the general financial system. And this is very true. And it's right on that precipice right now. That statement I made about Bitcoin becoming being a black hole and sucking up all of the world's liquidity, and basically we have advanced so much further toward that spot that I talked about, where Bitcoin would become absolutely the be-all and end-all. We've advanced so much further toward that spot or that area in time right now than we were when I talked about this before. It's incredible. It's incredible in my mind, the fact that this actually could come true. Not in the distant future, but within the next couple years, within the next few years, within the next maybe 2 or 3 years, that this could actually come true, where the fiat currencies all become worthless. And finance has no place to put their money except into 3 tangible hard assets classes. And that's cryptocurrencies, gold, and silver. It's just like a dead-end street. They are printing these fiat currencies into oblivion. They can't stop because the financial system would basically melt down in the opposite direction. It would deflate, and all the asset bubbles that they've created would burst. And more money could start to actually move into these 3 asset classes. But the other 2 asset classes, you got to understand something about that, gold and silver, is they are suppressing the price on gold and silver, and they have been all along, using a derivatives product, which is the paper short contracts. And so with these paper short contracts, and controlling the price, it's hard to tell how much longer in the future they can continue with this game with gold and silver. And what they've done is they've turned investors off. And these investors that are turned off have been moving into the crypto space instead, because they see crypto as being the hard asset of the future underlying the world's financial system, which is a position that it very well could take. So moving forward, I see that the potential for Bitcoin to take over, and it's like a monetary black hole. It's deflationary at the same time that the fiat currencies are inflationary, and it's acting like a black hole, sucks up everything around it. And I talked about the event horizon back on these shows I did. The event horizon is once you cross a certain point, then you're caught up in the, like if they got a spaceship, for instance. So a spaceship's coming along, you know, and it goes past a point called the event horizon where it gets too close to the black hole, and then it's too late. The black hole's got it, and it's going to suck that spacecraft into the black hole. There's no escape anymore. It's called the event horizon. There's an event horizon for Bitcoin and the cryptocurrencies where it crosses that threshold, 3, 4 trillion, maybe $5 trillion, and it gets too big to fail. And then at that point, what it starts to do is it starts to suck in everything around it as far as liquidity is concerned, or liquid assets in the financial system, which right now is actually the digital dollar. We're going to call it the digital dollar, and the reason why we're going to call it that is because the dollar has actually went digital now. You go anywhere out there, and you're standing in line, say at a McDonald's, and watch the people in front of you in line. They're not paying cash anymore. What they're paying is with a debit card or whatever, and it's all digital. So the dollar has actually went digital. Very small percentage of dollars are actually printed into cash anymore. Cash is just about going the way of the Goonie bird. You know, some people still use cash, but for the most part, you're going to find that this is a digital system now. And the digital dollar is no different than the digital currencies that they're using, like cryptocurrencies. It's a digital ledger system, except the difference is the dollar is kept on a manual ledger. It's operated by the banking system and stuff, right? And the other ledger, which the cryptocurrencies use, is a ledger that's kept by computer. It's either it's a blockchain ledger or any other form of this technology. It keeps the ledger by computer, which is much more accurate. It's much easier. It's much safer than keeping a ledger by the way they do it with the dollar. But still, it's the same thing. These dollars are floating around on the internet back and forth, and they're just keeping the ledger. Like you take money out of your bank account, then they just change the ledger notation of the amount of money that you have. Like if you got $300 and at McDonald's you spend $10, now you got $290. They've just changed the ledger. That's all they've done. Now the company that you just bought whatever you bought from, they just add $10 onto their ledger. But this money doesn't actually exist. It's just the ledger that they're changing the numbers with. But on the other hand, they're looking at these dollars as monetary units, they're creating endless amounts of them. Whereas the cryptocurrencies, most of them have hard limits. And so they're deflationary, where these hard limits make them deflationary, like Bitcoin and the other cryptocurrencies. And so you're looking at one side of a monetary system that's running parallel to the digital dollar monetary system that is keeping strict watch on how many currency units are being created, and this strict watch is done by computer on this computer ledger. And then on the other side of that coin, you've got the central banks and their ability to create endless amounts of monetary units, which makes it inflationary. This is going to act as a black hole. And Bitcoin, once it grows past a certain point, then it's going to start to grow even faster, because they're not going to end. They're not going to stop. These central banks are just going to keep printing into infinity. They're destroying the dollar, and they're destroying all of the other fiat currencies that are attached to the dollar, the yen, the Great British pound, without exception. And so what I said in these shows in the past looks much more likely now that it's actually going to come true. And what I also said in these shows is that you probably only need like 4 or 5% of one Bitcoin, which right now doesn't represent a huge amount of money. Even though Bitcoin's up to nearly $70,000, just to buy 4% wouldn't cost very much money. But what that could turn into in your future, maybe 2, 3, 4 years from now, if you sit on that and you hold it, it could turn into something that represents far more than your digital wealth in the dollar system. So if you've got a bank account, you might have $100,000 in there right now, right? And that what that's worth could be chiseled away over the next few years as the dollar goes down in its purchasing power. Whereas if you bought Bitcoin right now, it could go in the opposite direction, become worth more and more and more and more. And the people that are out there that HODL these coins could end up having a very secure retirement. But the people out there who are counting on a dollar, and they got the dollar in their bank account and that's all they have, it's the biggest risk you're ever taking in your lifetime, is the dollar. Because of this problem in the monetary system where they are creating too many monetary units, and they're not going to stop, guys. So this is your time. This is your chance to break away a little bit and secure for yourself some of these assets. And in my mind, it doesn't matter that much as long as you've got some assets that are out of the dollar-based denominated monetary system, which is nothing really more than a Ponzi scheme. So think about it now. This is a time for you to get out or get into a little bit of these hard assets. Gold, make sure you buy the real physical. Silver, make sure you get the real physical metal in your possession. And crypto assets, make sure you get your private keys and store them away someplace safe. And what I'm telling you guys, you don't need a lot. You just need some to protect yourself and act as insurance against a system that is faulty and a Ponzi scheme from its very start, from its very inception, way back in 1913 when they set this Ponzi scheme in motion. And the first number of years from 1913 until 1971, the Ponzi scheme was connected to gold. But in 1971, Nixon took us off the gold standard, and now it's connected to nothing. Thank you guys for listening. Like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys in the next show. Bye-bye.